Good evening, everybody.
Hello, good evening.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
I hope everybody's well. Welcome to Friday evening. And was it Spiritualism in Principle?
Yes.
Was
I like
come up with, some wonderful chaps sat down in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
Hi, Dad.
Oh, yes. Hello, Father.
Oh, hi, Daddy Alan.
And Mum.
Hi, Michael.
Tonight is the second in the series, although it's the first one that we've called Spiritualism in Principle, and it's going to be an evening of discussion, chat, and we'll see where Spirit wants us to go with it. So I think the running order is going to be opening prayer, Pam over in the corner's got a poem, and then let's see where we go, if that's all right with everybody. We have got a loose topic. We're going to try and throw things around, but it came to me in the middle of the week. I was like, what are we going to talk about tonight? And then this word popped into my head, so let's see what goes. So as he's not been on for a while, could our Canadian contingent open in prayer, if that's okay?
You're already getting it, Matthew.
Yeah.
I can. It's already all coming up, sweetheart.
They called all of us that, though, this time, so that's good. At least.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, sure. I will be happy to open us in prayer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Dear God, Spirit, and also the Great Mother Earth, we ask that you be present here with all of us today. May all of our loved ones and spirit guides and all of our friends in spirit be present with us as we explore these spiritual topics. Please guide us all as individuals and as a collective to help us to help each other, ourselves, and the world. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I won't do the Lord's Prayer tonight because I want to get into the chat. So could we have your poem, Irene, please?
You certainly can. Just let me say one thing. Stace, call us all riffraff again, and I'll be round at yours tomorrow, and it won't be pretty, right? Because I know what you're talking about tonight. As soon as you said it, Spirit came, and this is what they've given me, and I've just called it acceptance. Acceptance is not a given thing. Like respect, it has to be earned. Sometimes the end is where you need to begin, but this time keep a hold on what you have learned. Acceptance is part of everyday life for each and every one of us. There'll be lots of good times and trouble and strife. Sometimes you might have to ask for help from above. Acceptance can both be good and bad. There will be many challenges along the way, depending on whether you want to be sad or be upbeat and happy every day. Acceptance is being yourself, being you, not putting on airs and graces, because to be someone you're not may put you all by yourself, and people may see you as a person with many faces. Acceptance for some people can be very hard. No trust, no confidence, or timid and shy. Maybe because of a disability, so you have to be on your guard. And with no acceptance, life can be lonely and make you cry. Acceptance is friendship, kindness, and love. Relationships are formed by people liking the same things. Maybe sometimes there's divine intervention from our Lord above, because accepting and being accepted in all can make you fly on wonderful wings.
You've no idea how that fits.
Thank
tonight,
you,
Irene. You've no idea.
Well, I just write what Spirit give me, Tony. You know I do.
And I know exactly why they gave you that. I know exactly why they gave you that tonight. Before we go into much more,
We've got a calendar again.
Kylie Whiteway, please bring out a calendar, you lot.
I would just like to say thank you to Susan for acknowledging that I am actually present. But to all of you making your comments, I'm the one sitting next to him, so
Moving quick,
But
moving.
Nick, I'm on top of him.
Yeah, but you're having to share him with two others, so you know.
Yeah, so we're on top of
Anyway,
You're making the poor lad blush. Leave him
I
alone.
He's finally done it. He's blushing. Bless him.
And as Jane says, Nick, you're eye candy too.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You see, I
The
was
best before date is getting very close. Trust me. If I'm candy, then you know. I know sugar's got a long time to last, but
I'll always love you, Nick.
I know, so will I.
Me too.
Tony, you were saying something.
Yes, sorry, but I also want to say that it's really strange. There are people who cross your path just at the time you need them to, and certain person bottom right of the screen joined in my live services when they weren't really live services. I just put my camera on and started talking and was sort of babbling about all sorts and giving off the odd message and things, and made contact with me, and we've been friends from day one. And when we went down to Littleport, it was really strange. Jean said exactly the same as me. It was as if we'd been in the same room 2 days ago, and we just picked up conversation as if we
Brilliant.
and we'd never been in the same county for at all ever. But it was wonderful. Anyway, yeah, didn't have a chance to message you last night. I got wrapped up in all sorts of things. Wonderful address.
Yes, I watched it though. Yes.
Wonderful address, and it resonated so well with what we talked about tonight, because the theme I was given by Spirit was acceptance. And Nick, bravo.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. And thank you very much. Actually, you know, I mean, it's funny you should say about people coming into your lives and the synchronicity of all of that. It's almost it's just over a year since Reverend Matthew and I have been talking and friends. You know, that there were days that we'd like send each other messages all day, every day, and then we'd go a week and not speak and just pick it up again, just like we did. And as you said, we'd never actually physically met when you came to Littleport, but it was like old friendship. And it's actually a year now since you guys and all of your congregation were of such a huge support to me, because next week is the anniversary of making his transition. So it's been a year. It's really been a year, and what a year it's been, really. And I couldn't have got through it without my physical family, but also my spiritual family. And I suppose last night was a bit of an homage to that, after a fashion, but also I suppose really to say in continuation and expansion of my address that I gave last night. And if anybody hasn't seen it, then why not? But of course it is available online if anyone wants to see it. But I was talking obviously about God being ultimate and unlimited, and that the ramifications that has. And the concept of a God being an ultimate and unlimited being, and the idea that we are God made limited by the physical world, could potentially actually seem quite bigoted, without the fact that we have an ingrained desire to grow and therefore help God understand itself. And on the subject of acceptance, if we accept that God has no limits, and if we accept that we are supposed to be more unto God, then we must start to think and focus less on walls and borders and all of these things that we build for ourselves based on those physical concepts. We call the Great Spirit the Father, Mother, God. Many of us do that, you know, and that demonstrates the dualism and less limiting concept of a singular parental creator. But it's still limited in the physical understanding that holds us back. We are animalistic in nature, because we are born into physical animals, and you know, we react and behave just like animals. Really, we still do, even today. And you know, that does, it holds us back. But whilst it's true that there's a need to accept that biological element of ourselves, and that biologically the human race will only continue with biological reproduction, we must also accept that if God is unlimited, then putting a gender onto the Great Spirit is limiting it again. And there is no gender in the spirit realm, because when we pass, we shake off the fetters of that physical body. And of course, the Great Spirit is completely genderless. And if we're to create Earth as it is in heaven, we must at least consider the possibility that focusing on gender, just like being animalistic, is a cause of pain and anger and oppression. And animalistic responses do not help and do not continue this ever evolving growth. To be without gender is to be closer to the world of spirit. And that's not, of course, to say that we should ignore that which makes us physically, in contrast to that spiritual life. But ultimately, if you feel within your heart you've got no emotional gender, no connection to that physical fetter, then perhaps you're remembering being part of the Great Spirit. And on that subject, just briefly, certainly when I first started hearing talkings of phrases like 100 genders and that sort of thing, I was actually really quite disheartened, because not because I was against it, but because in my mind, and based on what Spirit had shown me, I knew that it would be used to build more walls and more barriers, not less. And that concerned me, because the more walls and barriers we have separates us more, and we become isolated and insular. But we're all separated and individual in this life, and we have to respect and understand that. We all have our own name that defines us as an individual, and we should be happy that we are exactly who we are. And if we need to label that for our own benefit, so long as it's not used as an attack or to segregate, then that should be accepted as fine, if it's for definition and mutual support for those that feel the same as us. And that's part of the human experience. But ultimately, if one person, just one singular individual person, feels excluded or unidentified or unnoticed as a piece of that jigsaw puzzle that I was actually talking about last night, then if they don't feel as though they fit in with the rest, can't find their place in the bigger picture, then we've failed as people, as family under Spirit, and frankly, the physical experience is vastly overrated. And that's what Spirit said to me in my era of understanding, because I was far too far ahead of myself and the world in which I live. Now I long for the day that we can, do away with pronouns completely, that they're not needed or required or even acknowledged, because then every single person will be completely equal. But Spirit pointed out that without those individual borders and shapes and sizes, how the hell are we going to figure out where we fit into that jigsaw puzzle? So in essence, I had to accept that the day humans do not need to identify as anything, watch from upstairs with our spirit friends, and certainly won't see them with these gelatinous orbs that are embedded in my face. But then we learn, we grow, we understand, and we progress, and have to accept that our views will sometimes oppose others. And in order to progress forward, we have to listen and be patient with each other to grow forward. And that's why I loved your reading, Irene, because one of the things that I've been thinking about all week is that acceptance is brilliant, but it's also very difficult and can be dangerous. Because if you accept something because you feel you have to, then you're in danger. And acceptance has got it's the three-edged sword. And I always end on a Battle on Fire quote, and it seems like I'm going to on my rant with this. Understanding is a three-edged sword: your side, their side, and the truth. And if we all behave each other and be nice to each other and treat each other with genuine respect for each other's positions, somewhere in the middle of all of our truths is the genuine truth, the truth of the Great Spirit. And I think, I've ranted enough, so there you go.
I do just want to highlight, I agree with Michael that if we're focused on the physical form, then it denies the one essential element that we are spirit first, physical second.
Yes, yeah, I do agree with that too. A point. Yes, we are here to learn physical lessons, but that doesn't mean to say that we should be restrained by that physical existence in which we live, because otherwise, how are we going to progress? So I do agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just trying to read back. I'm just trying to see what Kylie put.
Yeah, that's what I was
I can't find it.
There, what
I believe that we all have separate lessons to learn and to become. Yeah, completely agree. We all have our own lessons to learn, our own path to walk. And I think the thing for me is to try and walk down that path without causing harm to others. And to find your own way in life without hurting other people along the way. And Michael has a big thing about the word tolerance and tolerate, because to tolerate something is to put up with it, like Nick said, because you have to, not because you've learned and realized and think, oh right, okay, yeah, I see I was mistaken there, where acceptance is that next step. It's to learn about, to understand, and then to go, oh yeah, I get it.
What's Miles?
Miles put, let's see. I believe that God does this to show that evil creates suffering and good triumphs over all by good being. Yeah.
I totally agree. And if I could just say, Anne-Marie, your comment at 7:10 when I started ranting, you're more than welcome. People can just be plonkers sometimes. So I did take the TikTok. Yeah. Tony told me about it, so I was like, right, I want this. I have to admit, I did I will shut up in a minute, I promise, because there are plenty of voices need to be heard that aren't mine. But that bit about tolerance and acceptance, I did say that in a video that I did, not for spiritualism, but for my financial career, couple of prides ago.
Yes, I saw that.
Tolerance is something that we should not be comfortable with settling for, because tolerance means you're putting up with something you don't like. Acceptance at that stage is the goal. And I think that applies to every single path in life. And I've had a week of it. I'm half asleep at the best of times, and so sometimes I rant on. So if I do, just push the mute button. But I think it's important that respect is the ultimate goal for every view, whether or not we agree with it. So just being, as I always put it, just be bloody nice. And if you follow that path, then you're all right. Because just being nice is a level of acceptance that isn't dangerous.
Yeah.
I was really drawn to, I think it's Kylie, maybe?
Yeah.
Said when bad things happen, it's easy to question faith, but then if you do, did you ever really have it? And I think we can absolutely have like stone solid faith, but it grows that way by questioning it through our hardships. So when we are faced with something that is appears to be insurmountable, and it brings us to this place where we just feel completely disconnected, in a state of anima sola, which means disconnected from God. I think it's actually an amazing opportunity to make our faith stronger. I don't know about you, but the amount of times I got all dressed up and went to church to give God the finger is a lot. And
Mhm.
it's not because I don't love God or I don't believe. It's because whatever I was going through it felt so insurmountable that I had nowhere to place that anger except for up. And somebody asked me what I thought about me doing that in the past, and one thing that I realized is that God can handle it. He gave me two middle fingers and knew exactly what I was going to do with them. But more than that, it allowed a space of conversation. So it wasn't just me, like telling God off or talking to God or asking for deeper faith or hope or whatever. It actually got me into a place where I could listen, where I could actually open my ears and my eyes and wait for a response. And so I think that we can deepen our faith through questioning it. And I think that it's actually a very important part of transpersonal development, or the development of our beliefs, to get into that rock bottom place when things get rough. Because the moment after all of that anger and questioning and pain and fear is release and surrender. And that is when God can come in, because we've moved ourselves out of the way. God can come in and help us to rearrange our lives in a way that is healthier or more balanced for us. So I can totally understand where Kylie's coming from with the question. I think probably everybody with faith on the planet has reached this moment where we're like, what the F is going on up there? But I also think the moment after that is maybe even the most important one.
Yeah. And I do want to say to Kylie that the pain you feel and the grief you feel when you lose somebody is because of the love you had for them. And without love, there isn't grief.
No,
Yeah.
got to love
And
Sunday.
you have, it was something I said about Her Majesty when Prince Philip passed away, that she's grieving for 72 years of love that she shared with the man. And I mean, no matter what you think of him, he was a husband and the father of our children. And, you know, yeah, without the love you felt, you wouldn't have had the grief. So, yeah,
I heard a quote once that said, "Grief is the price you pay for love."
Yes.
yeah, it is. It is.
And I have to completely back Matt up, and actually both Matt and Tony can back me up on what I'm about to say. There have been times I've nearly walked out of this way of life through anger. There's been times I've nearly walked out of this way of life through frustration and grief. And for anyone who's watching who thinks that just because we're sitting here, we've got absolute unlimited faith. A year ago, I was ready to go, and I was so angry because the loss that I suffered really did knock my faith. But I have, as Matt said, come back so much stronger for that.
Yeah.
Anne Marie, as far as the gentleman on TikTok is concerned, acceptance that he is a plonker is not enough. We should still be loud and tell him where he's wrong.
Yep.
In actual fact, the gentleman of which we are speaking on that score, there's plenty of evidence out there on the internet to show that a lot of people are really quite annoyed with him. So this is where acceptance can become dangerous, because if you accept that that's his view and that's his way, no, you don't have to accept ignorance and intolerance and anger. And I really struggle with turning the other cheek, which was why I was so angry last year, because how can I accept this loss after, and literally it was so, and I look at it now and I think how ignorant I was. It's like, after all I've done for you up there, how can you take the most important person out of my life when I need him the most? And I was really angry. But you know what? you talk it over, you listen, and you find that acceptance that you can't change everything.
I agree with that, Nick, because I lost
And
so much so quick. And now what's same, I thought, how come is up there and I've lost so much and everything's happened. But yet, nobody can explain that and there's reasons for it. But now I just take it into my heart and think, well, I've done all that, but people have got worse than me, they've got more. So I believe that one day everything's going to be back to normal.
yeah,
and balanced, and
So
and these guys, everyone at home, these guys here, they really help me, right down to just distracting me with pictures of animals, and and talking about the sky and the snow. And I realized that I still owe Reverend Matthew a picture of the sunrise over the fens. I'm in a different store now, so I'll get a better view for you.
I
But
owe Lynn some ice from Canada, so Reverend.
So you're going to put it in a bottle and send it over?
I'm going. I absolutely plan on it. I will find some ice, bottle it up, and she'll have to refreeze it, but it will be Canadian ice when she does.
There you go. There you go.
That's it.
Suzanne put, despite her beliefs, she knows everybody doesn't have to think the same way. And even though I may not agree with others, I have to respect that, they're right, and I agree to disagree. And that is respect, not tolerance. You're right. And I always say, Suzanne, that I will fight to my last breath for your right to have freedom of speech and freedom to say what's on your mind and to say what your beliefs are, as long as you understand that sometimes freedom of speech doesn't come with freedom from consequence. So, and for me, that's the important point to make. So, you have the right to say what you feel and what you believe, but when you face the consequences, don't come crying and expect a tissue, because
you've done that. You've said
yeah.
that.
And
I have to admit, I like that word from Susan. It is respect.
That's the respect, isn't it? It's I give you respect to say what you feel, and there is a point where you have to agree to disagree, because you're never going to change everybody and all at once. And all we can do is, it's something I think I said to Reverend Nick and his mum earlier today, that we have to make our words louder and our light that little bit brighter, and hope we can illuminate their darkness and open their hearts a little bit.
And I think I think it's really important to make the definition, the declaration, the certainty that there is a difference between right-wing extreme views and average Joe views. And if you look at the world, most people have average Joe views, and they might be one end of the spectrum or another end of the spectrum, but it's very rare, thank God. And we know when these days are, and we can look through history and find when these days are, when there is a really right-wing extreme view that takes hold. And that is when we've got to be absolutely on our game. And that is when acceptance and, to an extent, respect have to be very careful. A certain former president got in trouble not too long ago, really, on the grand scheme of things, for saying that a particular former German leader had done a lot of good things, and he got really wrapped for that. Now, if he'd have stayed in the transport department and just worked on the roads, if he'd have stayed in the education department and the hospital department and just built schools and everything, then yes, he probably would have done. But that doesn't mean to say that I agree with him or would praise him for the work he did, because if you do the wrong thing for the right reason, it has an element of forgiveness attached to it. But if you do the right thing, sorry, if you do the wrong thing, sorry, if you do the right thing for the wrong reasons, and if you have this darkness ingrained on you, it blemishes all the good that you do.
Yeah.
The phrase I'm looking for is a stain in the soul cannot be removed by simply only acknowledging the good that they've done. When we go to the world of spirit, we have to be our own judge and jury. We have to stand on that beach and look at that sky and see all the things we've done and actually acknowledge whether we did the right thing or not. And if we don't, we're in trouble. But if we say, you know what, today I could have done better, then there's hope. But the world is filled with extremes, and we have to be careful not to put everybody in the same box of extremes.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this is going to pee a lot of people off. But up until a certain point in the history, I was a paid up member of the Conservative Party. Now, there are many people.
Sorry, at that point, I just have to mute him because just no.
But if I may, that doesn't necessarily mean to say that I still am. And, you know, I believe in unity, and I believe in, various views and values. I have to admit, before that, I was a paid up member of the Liberal Democrats. But when the particular leader of the Liberal Democrats turns around and will not say whether or not they agree that same-sex relationships are anti-God, that was when I jumped ship.
Mm.
And so, I'm not saying this to bring politics in. I'm just saying I have certain views that are on a central line, but that doesn't mean to say that I agree with the hardline extremist views that have some reflection in my. And it certainly is the same with religion. Politics and religion are not that far apart if we are honest with ourselves, because there's a group of people who believe something, they work towards it, and that should be it. But unfortunately, there are people with really, really hardline views that just want to shout down everyone else. And whether it be religion, whether it be politics, whether it be walking down the street, any hardline view enforced on people is not acceptance, is not tolerance, is not respect, and is certainly not spiritual. And, I still always go back to the simple phrase, just be bloody nice.
Which I think is exceptionally good advice. I mean, there's not a lot that can't be solved in our world through communication. Even most fears are misunderstandings if you think about it. And the fears that you see from one group to another, like, for example, conservative viewpoints towards people who are in the middle of the road. A lot of those conservative viewpoints are based on fear. They're based on not understanding something. And I think that if the whole world said, you know what, I think I'm going to get as educated as possible on the things that scare me, probably most of these fears and these like aversions would start to fade, and people would actually embrace and accept the things that they've been so afraid of.
I really wouldn't make the best prime minister
No,
ever.
wouldn't.
No,
No.
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 We
No.
would all be riding unicorns and yeah, no,
Please become the Prime Minister of Canada. That sounds amazing. You're hired.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Matt that people are afraid of those that they see as other than.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it is we are all made individual for a reason. And if you just wanted the same sheep dipped approach to everything, then God, this place would be so
It
boring.
would be.
I think, yeah, I think I'd have been born, took one look around, and gone, I'm going back. I'm going back.
Shouldn't it?
I'm
Shouldn't
not,
it?
no, not playing that
I'm
game.
not coming no further.
Absolutely. And if I could go back to, because you know how I love to flog the horse when it comes to my analogies. When it comes to the jigsaw puzzle, you know, I was talking about how everyone has different shapes and they all find their place and they all fit. Some people will never fit. The
True.
shapes are just too out of it. But if you take just 3 pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, right, you got this bit over here, you got this bit over here, there is always going to be a piece that fits both of those pieces.
Mhm.
A middle line, a central ground that doesn't bring those two together, but to an extent keeps them apart, but still makes them feel part of the whole. And you know, they love using the jigsaw puzzle analogy with me to the extent that I bore the hell out of people with it. But it fits. It really, really does. You know, not everyone is going to be able to feel comfortable occupying the space next to someone else. Whereas there will be those that are quite happy and really, really comfortable to fit right in the middle of both.
Mm.
And I believe if I want to throw out a biblical quote, that would be "Blessed are the peacemakers."
Yeah.
That they not only unite but also keep apart those that are so different that they're never going to fit together.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
I like that. And I think too, like the people that
She
don't.
can't get a word in anyway, bless her.
Oh, go ahead.
And that's saying something.
It is.
Matthew, you've not. This is my stepmom, Pat.
Hi, Pat. Nice to meet you.
Hello, Matthew. Yes.
We love Pat.
She looks awesome.
And I wouldn't want to mess with her either.
Oh no, she's a lethal weapon when she starts, Matthew.
There we are.
Right. Well, Matthew, I haven't spoke to Nick before, and I know everyone else, but just thinking about you, Matthew, and where you've come from. I've worked in Canada, and I've been there a few times, and I do envy some of that countryside you've got around you. But wherever we go, wherever we work, wherever we're doing God's work, the work of spirit, everybody's the same. The houses are a little different. They might have mountains, they may have flatlands, they may have all sorts of things, but everybody is the same. Everybody, when we go around as mediums, the same heartaches, the same problems are all there that everyone has to face. I give it me very simply that before we come to Earth, before we come to this planet as we are as humans here, we are the souls still living in the energy in some dimension where we perhaps have to moved on from, and we have certain lessons that we should, if we could, learn. So those lessons are, let's say, they put down on the curriculum there. You've got to learn this, and this, or this is what you're supposed to do. So then you come down, you brought down, and these different tests, let's say, in this schoolhouse are put before you. And they're there for you to learn from, to grow from, or to ignore and go stay at the bottom of the class. It's up to you what you do. Tolerance is all right to some extent with things. We have to sometimes put up with situations that cannot be changed, but that can be okay sometimes. But if it's in your thinking, if you can do it, to tolerate some things when people live together or live together as a family. You don't always like things if they don't do them the way you do, but you put up with it because you love them and you like them that way. But to have an experience and to experience the heartaches and sufferings that we have to go through, it's it's a challenge. And it's not what happens, it's how you approach it and how you deal with it. I In 2000 I went through a very very bad one, and all I know is I stood outside an intensive care unit, and I just said something good got to come out of this. I didn't say, why are you taking them away? Why has this got to happen? I didn't get angry with spirit. And yet, after that experience, the philosophy changed, gradually changed, and I noticed the change. And I only know that experience, it was a little tick because I'd done the right thing. And so I know it was mentioned a little while ago about doing what was right. If you try to do something, and I look back and I think many of us do, we do something, we think we're doing the right thing, and then we look back over the years and think, oh, that was a terrible decision. But if you do it and you think you're doing right, it's not as bad as doing something bad, or something, making some decision that you know is going to hurt someone purposefully. And I think when you have to see yourself and face yourself when you go to spirit, you're going to find, I don't know, I always think it's like a little copybook, and then your ticks and your crosses and but whatever you are, however good you are, however you much try to improve yourself, you're still a long way to go. And I know after all the years I've had in spiritualism, I still only know a little bit. I still only know a fraction of what there is to learn. And and when I get to the next level, God's willing, I'm going to be there with the people that love me and my dogs and cats and all that. But I know that there are other lessons then for me to go forward with, to learn. Because to me, God is not a man with a grey beard, not a woman. It's a love. It's pure energy, pure love. And if you have ever felt that, you you're not afraid of being there. I felt it twice. Once when I saw my mum many years ago, and the energy that came towards me was not making love. And then if you sing the film, you've all seen the film Ghost. Yeah, you've all seen that with some young lady. And that light that came down there, it was pure love. And whoever wrote that script knew a lot about spiritualism. I don't have any hang-ups with other religions either that you spoke of and other ways of life. But what I do, I don't, well, I can say I do sometimes try and convert them if they come round to my house, you know. I'm not doing so bad with the Mormons.
She locks
or
them
the
in a
others.
cellar, I'll tell you. She's got a loading
Well,
cellar.
I'm very good with Jehovah's Witnesses. They back away from me because they invite them to churches. And but the thing is, I don't mind which pathway you take. If you've got that rock, if you've got that solid faith, nothing can take you away from it. Whatever happens, you'll lose your dearest people to you, as Jean and I, and all of you know. But nothing can take that faith away. You don't want to throw it down the river. You don't question it. You just think, what have I got to do that's right? How can I improve? How can I learn from this so that in turn I can help other people? I can use my experiences for other people to give them that little bit of extra help and courage and healing sometimes, because it's empathy, not pity. You're there, you've been there. So everything you go through helps you within the work that we do with Spirit and for Spirit.
Yeah.
I said enough.
Um,
Oh, you haven't.
Pat for Prime Minister. Pat for Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
I second.
I just want to shoot them all, so it's all right.
Oh, that's very spiritual of you there,
No,
Pat.
that's spiritual, isn't it? You have to shoot them.
But no, I do love those words, Pat, and I do think you're right. And that's the hardest lesson I've ever had to learn. Well, I've
Completely.
had two really hard lessons to learn in my life.
Don't cope with me.
What the first one was to trust in spirit,
Yeah, you got to
and
trust.
that was the hardest. I always say we if you are an actor, you learn your script and you know your points and you know your cues and you go out and you do your film, play, whatever it is, and you know what you're going to do. A singer, you know your set list, you know your routines, you know, off you go. We walk out onto platform, nothing,
Yeah.
nothing. And I said to Jean, I can't do this. What if I freeze? And she said, trust spirit. They will never ever let you down. They won't make you look a fool. And
Look where you are.
fingers crossed, they've never made me look a fool. And the other lesson I had to learn was it's that famous line in the Lord's Prayer: "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us." And that is so difficult to do. Um, and it was only when I was making myself ill, hanging on to so much negativity, that I thought, I can't do this. I can't do this. I've got to let it go. And the day I did that, I've never looked back. Never looked back.
In
I
other
think-
words, you forgave yourself.
Yes, exactly. That yes, because sometimes we are our own worst enemy,
Yeah, it's true.
and we do things to block ourselves, and we almost set ourselves up to fail because, well, maybe success is a bit scary, and it's easier to go, oh, I just can't do it. I just can't do it, and wash your hands of it, and away you go.
I
But
think what Nick said is or Reverend Nick said is right, and it's like that self forgiveness can be harder. I think sometimes than forgiving other people. You know, I think sometimes I remember one time I was thinking like, oh, God must think this of what I just did or this of me or whatever. And this voice came along and said, do not put words in God's mouth and not even about yourself. And it was probably one of the most important things that I had heard, at least at that time in my life. So I completely, yeah, just in support of what Reverend Nick said. I
yeah,
think sometimes that looking in the mirror part is hard, right? And we believe that we could have or should have done something differently, but like Pat said, as long as we did our best in the moment, even if it's a disaster later, as long as we are in a the as long as we do our best in the moment to make the best decision we can based on the information and the opportunities that we have in front of us, I think all is well.
Irene.
I always, you know my story, you know how I started with my grandmother. And last night after service, I was talking to Tom and I was telling him, and it's a wonderful way to work. And I've tried to teach Stacey so much. And as you know, now Jean's her mentor because she needs to learn different things from me, you know, when we go out physical. But she always taught me 3 valuable lessons. If you go with God in your heart, you'll always be okay. If you go with love in your heart, you will receive love back. And always respect somebody else's words, because even if they're not the words you want to hear, but you can always talk to them, and talking is a healer. And I've gone through that mantra all my life, and I've always listened to other people's point of view, whether I've agreed or not. I just say, well, that's your opinion, this is mine. But I think that what we do collectively as a Christian spiritual society is even more important these days than what it was when I had to go to church 3 times a day when I was growing up, because it's a different world now. and it needs different things. And if we can go out into the world giving that love and that healing and everything that goes with it, and bringing these wonderful messages that Spirit give us for our congregation and our church people, then I don't think we'll go far wrong. Because out of it has become wonderful friendship, and we've got our wonderful congregation. Wherever we go, and working with you and Dean and Pat, wherever we go, we always get laughter, tears, even on our own. It doesn't matter. But they're there because they believe, and we do it because we believe.
Me personally, I just enjoy doing what I do, and I can't call it because to me it isn't work.
It's not.
No, it's not work. It's not
It's
work.
privilege.
Yeah,
I said that to Tom last night. I said it's not work.
And
Yeah.
fine if that's what they want to call it, but to me it's just an honour.
Yeah, absolutely.
To help people who have lost their loved ones and they are a bit lost, and if we can just give them just that little bit, might be one word of evidence, what can say that your loved one still exists, then I feel that I've done what I've set out to do. I don't have to give loads and loads before she says anything.
No.
It's a joke. Just that one little word might mean more for them than anything else in the world, because you've proven that their loved ones is with them.
Well, and look on Wednesday night, Jean.
Fetches tears to your eyes. It is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, look at Wednesday night when you said about when you got those two people out of the congregation, you spoke to them privately. You know, that's what we do, because you could have sort of owned it up in church, but as you said, it wasn't the place to do it.
And he came in, that young lad, that day, he said to me, I don't know his name anyway, but he came into a church we did on Wednesday, and he sat there and he'd been talking to his cousin, I think, or uncle next to him.
Yeah.
He was saying, and I'd actually went and I could see his granddad, described him and everything, and afterwards I had to talk to him. And he said, can I just say thank you? And he shook my hand, and that meant a lot. And he said, you've given me 100% proof now. I know that my granddad's here. And I know he's not dead, like people said they're dead. He's not dead. He's with us. And to shake a young man, to shake your hand is lovely. And it weren't just that I gave him this message. It was the fact that it fetched tears to my eyes just so I knew I could help him just that one little step further.
And it picks up on something we always say, doesn't it, Jean, that everything we do as spiritualists and as Christian spiritualists should be about healing.
Yes.
Always be trying to heal people, to make people feel whole.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about us as a collection of ministers, people together, is we just open our arms and our hearts and say, welcome.
Yes.
You green, sky blue, pink with orange dots, whatever, welcome. Because we are open for you and your loved ones in the world of spirit.
And if you don't want to join us, you don't have to. If you watch us once and you don't like it, it's your preference not to watch again. That is entirely up to you. There's no judgment here. There's no egos. There's no jealousy. And I think this is why we all get on so well, because in my life, there's no room for any of that sort of thing.
No.
And I personally think that is the wonderful thing about being able to do something like this.
Yes.
Is because people do prejudge, and people have heard things about us spiritualists. You know, we talk about judgment and all the rubbish and the accusations that we get as spiritualists is, my favorite one is, they read people's minds about the past and tell them these things. If I could read somebody's mind, I'd be in a casino. But the ability for people to actually see what we really are about without having to make that commitment of walking into a physical church, I truly believe has opened up this way of life even more than it already was. I mean, I probably bore people with my catchphrases, but I truly, truly, truly always say that all are welcome, and I mean it. And I always have, and I always will. That's the way I was brought up. That's the way I was trained. That's the way I developed. And, I don't care how you identify yourself religiously, you are welcome. I mean, I was talking to someone earlier who is of a slightly different religious viewpoint to myself, who's actually wants to just sit and talk about what my views are as someone who is different to theirs because they want to get a broader view. And I said, yeah, great. I'll bring the vodka. Because we always have to include some form of spirit in our deliberation. I just wish I could drink these days anymore. I mean, but really, realistically, for me, what it all boils down to is to err is human, to forgive divine, and we are human. Um, Pat, I love every time you speak, and I know everybody else does. And you remind me of so many things that I tend to forget what I'm going to say, but you did remind me that there is a poem that I wanted to just briefly share. For those that watch Littleport, I have spoken about my old drama teacher, Tony, another Tony. They're all trouble. Tony Boland, my old drama teacher. He's now a wonderful poet, and I know Tony, you've spoken to him and read his stuff.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, a poem popped up on my feed from him today, and it's called "The Human."
Oh.
I'm going to have to nick that for tonight and share with my friends. And it's called The Human. It says, "The clouds pass from sight, revealing the blue emptiness behind that embraces all moments, the storm and the calm. Behind the wind, the breath, and behind my breath, the Holy Spirit, fragile as a flame, but older than the stars. Behind my eyes, the light of a million solstice dawns, a million campfires, a million loves."
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
That's beautiful.
That was gorgeous.
Yeah,
Absolutely
that is
gorgeous.
beautiful.
And he's so spiritual as an individual. But what I love about him, and truly, and I will say it, envy, is that he can paint a picture so magnificent in so few words when I've only just started taking the in-breath to go on for about 6 hours.
Uh, you talking while you was talking a little earlier about excuse me, what we do from the platform. I get up there many times and I say everybody that stands on this platform to work for spirit are not spiritual. And we're finding that very, very much within our churches. We're getting more psychics, we're getting more people that's going there for entertainment and fortune telling. And
Yes.
there are people that will not open their mouths about it. I'm afraid I'm one of them that does, and not always like very much for it. But somebody's got to speak for spirit. Somebody's
Yes.
got to be the voice for them. And I'm only one little voice that, well, it's only,
It's not little boys.
but we've got to speak up for them. And yet people will agree with me, but they will not speak up to it. They will not stand up and be counted and thinking that way. I actually told the
Yes.
president to the union that he'd only got one boss, and he wasn't the union one, and it was going to just something at the church I go to. And I told him I'd only got one boss, and that was his spirit. And he just looked at me and said, "All right." But wherever we go, SNU churches, which is most of our churches, but we can still spread that word of love, that Christian word of love. That what I started out basically a Methodist, and I've followed in those footsteps of the teachings of Jesus. I've always done that, and it's been shown to me, and that's been me. And wherever I go, whichever church I'm in, I don't care a monkey for anything. If they want to speak about it, they can do it. And I do. But nobody stops me.
No.
Nobody stops me. And spirit will get their words out somehow. But we have got so many unspiritual people. And the thing I was told, when my Bill, Jean's dad, he it once said that when God needed to water his flowers, he would prefer to have a nice shiny watering can. But if he couldn't get one of those, he'd have to use the rusty ones. So let's say, the people who are not trying to improve themselves spiritually, who are not trying to find and to grow from it, they can still be of use. But somebody has got to speak out. We've got to speak out more for what the world of spirit, because we are going to be needed. Spiritualism is going to be needed in the future, as it was in the wartime days. It's going to be needed more now, more than ever, to save this beautiful planet of ours. And one little thing, I'll go back to what I said earlier. I was told quite recently when I was saying, oh, if I could only be a better person, oh, I'm this, I'm that, and look what I've done in my life, oh dear, dear, dear. And I heard the words, you can only work with the materials you are given. So I might be a nice person in spirit. I don't know the man, not a person of soul. I might be, but I came down with a limited amount of equipment that I got to use. I got to make the best of while I was here. And for some reason, that settles me a lot inside to think, well, I'm trying, and God loves a trier. And that's all you do, you try your best. But anyhow, thank you for letting me speak. Great.
Thank.
I love to hear Pat speak, and I have to agree with you completely on everything you said. I think because you might have picked up that me and Anne Marie have been speaking outside of tonight, and in actual fact, it's in answer to the psychic versus spirit question. There was, and I'm not going to name names or provide links or details because I don't want to give these kind of people the opportunity to be heard even more, just out of curiosity. But there was this individual, as well as saying some pretty trite and horrible things, was saying that you can know who's a genuine psychic medium and who's a fake, and the fakes will talk about God and talk about heaven. And I instantly saw, I mean, Tony will confirm this, I instantly saw red. And I then had to spend a couple of hours calming down before I actually did or said anything. But I think it's really, really important to acknowledge that there is a difference between psychic and spirit.
Oh, yeah.
They are both interchangeable and very useful and very usable. But whereas a spirit medium can be a psychic, not all psychics are spiritual mediums.
That's how I say it.
And, psychism is useful. It's great, and it's a great training tool. But it's not the be all and end all.
That's correct. That's just what Stacey's just said.
Oh, bless you, Stacey. I thought you'd be all right, Stacey.
I think that anybody who aligns themselves consciously to be of service by helping humanity, whether they're bringing through your dead grandmother or they're talking about something that they perceive in your energy to do with the path that you're on, I think all of it is worthy and worth it. And I think that the segregation and the differences between psychic and medium, yes, inherently there are different types of ability, but if you look at it, all mediums start off with psychic ability, and any developing medium starts off in psychic development. So mediumship, in effect, is a psychic specialty, just like tarot cards and anything else, which I usually get shot at for saying.
No, I do agree with you
but
on
it's
that.
true, and I think that where we align ourselves, as Stace has said beautifully, where we align ourselves dictates whether or not we deserve to be on the platform. If we're up there for fame and fortune, maybe not. If we're up there to help people, whether it be through mediumship, speaking, healing, which is the mediumship of energy between two planes, as you know, or talking to somebody about their auric energy field, all of it is useful with the right alignment. And I think I'm just as much as Pat is adamant on purifying, in a sense, the platform, I am too, but in a slightly different way. I think all of it with the right alignment is important.
But for spiritualism, we're a religion. We're a
Yeah.
religion, and we should be working that way. And the proof, what you're here to do is to prove that there is no death, prove that there are loved ones around you, to give evidence of things that you don't know about, things you've never heard. It's all right giving a message to someone you already know and giving them all the information you've already got. That's not mediumship.
No.
It's
Right.
proving to someone you've not met before and you don't know anything about, and being able to tell them things that sometimes they have to go away and find out also. When
Yes.
you go, you may know, but I know that you spoke about faith. When you go to a foreign country, you don't know where you're going to stay, you don't know where you're going to work, you don't know the language. All you take with you is faith.
Hmm.
All you take with you is faith. And I don't know why I'm saying these oddments, but they're all coming in as though, they're so very, very important that we have the faith, we have the strength of spirit, and we work for them, giving our best to prove that we are a religion, not an entertainment, not
Yes.
to live people's lives. What problems we have, we should, with the guidance of spirit, we can help sort out.
Mm-hmm.
But whoever hurts you and brings things to your door that you sets it under you, they literally hurt themselves more.
Hmm.
They damage the soul, and they've got to work that out. And that's their responsibility. They may have hurt you, cut you really, really deeply, but they've hurt themselves a lot more by their actions.
Yes.
So,
I totally agree with you on that. I think you're
I
And I
right.
have to say, I love that phrase, the right alignment.
Yes,
I think that's perfect. And
it is, Matthew. I love that.
is.
Oh, thank you.
I
No,
just
it
wanted to pick
really
up
does.
Miles's comment. If at first you don't succeed, try and try again.
Hmm.
I also like Quentin Crisp's version of that saying. If at first you don't succeed, then failure is your style.
I revel in my failures, and I've had quite a few. I just don't tell too many people about them.
I think something that's coming across tonight is that we're all of us, all six of us that are on screen, and Michael sat in the background, and everybody that's commenting, we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, and I think that is absolutely amazing. And I did want to pick up on a little bit that Michael put, that we have heard mediums upon platforms using it as a platform,
Hmm.
and that's, like Pat has just said, that is not what we're here for. We are here to do spirit work and to give spirit and to tell something. What's the phrase? Come on, give me the word. To tell spirit truth and to tell the divine spirit truth. And like Nick was alluding to earlier, to shine that little bit of the divine spirit we have inside of us and to shine it out into the congregation to help them to find the light and the truth.
Hmm.
And I do think that that is why we're here. And this is certainly why I wanted to wear the collar, because I do think that's what ministry is to me. It's shining that light for people and helping them find their way to the path if they want to walk it, which comes back to something Pat said and something Matthew said, that you can only help people who want to be helped, and you can only show the light and the truth to people and say, come on and we'll help you.
Yeah.
And if they choose to, marvelous, that's wonderful, and that's exactly why we're here. But sometimes they'll come through the door for weeks and weeks, and then they'll stop coming because they think, no, actually, it's that thing I said earlier about maybe I'm sabotaging myself because I'm too scared to succeed. And I don't, because for me to get to where I am now, I've had to come to like myself a little bit, and that really didn't sit comfortably with me.
Hmm.
because I'd had decades of being told that, you know, you have to do this and you have to look like this and you have to behave like this, and I didn't want to, and I was thinking, well, that must mean I'm bad. And you know, and to reconcile that within yourself, and that is something that I think as ministers and as spiritualists you have to do. You have to acknowledge yourself and
Mm.
acknowledge your failures as well as your successes, and to face those things that you might have done in your life, like Matthew said, where you say, wow, what would God think about that? You know, and to acknowledge that. And what I like is that I can't remember the complete phrase, but it's something our Lord Jesus said, or Joshua, that there is a place in my Father's house for all who truly repent.
Mm.
And sometimes the lip service sorry isn't enough. You have to really dig deep and pick apart something and go, yeah, that was a major
Faux
and
pas, dear.
yeah, faux pas, that'll do. And that was a biggie. And yeah, there's a lot of repentance to be done there. But if you truly repent, there is a place in my Father's house. And for me, those words always keep ringing in my head, you know,
You know,
because you can only say this is what you need and this is what you need to do. It's down to the individual to do it.
do you know what I like about that quote the most? Not just the inclusiveness and the acceptance and all of that, but it's talking again also about that God knows us at such a profoundly deep level. Because we can say we're sorry all day long out loud to the people that we've hurt, but that true repentance and forgiveness is only something that can be seen by us and God. Those are the only two things in the planet in the universe that are going to see that. What I love about that quote, maybe the most, is actually like it's saying how it's sort of evidence again of that really profound relationship that we have, whether we're aware of it or not. And I just think that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And it also resonates with something that, and it's the first time I ever truly thought
Hmm.
about the words of um, my vicar when I was up in County Durham, because I used to go to the C of E church 3 times a week, and I did Sunday school with them, and I did all sorts with them. And it was the first, we used to go, Matthew, every Christmas Eve, my dad and me. And when I went back home for the first time after I'd moved in with Michael and we'd gone up for Christmas, and my dad said, are you coming to church? Oh, I don't know. I don't think I will. Come on. And he took me to the evening service, Christmas Eve service. And he always did the Christingle service. Then there was a break, and then he did the full mass, if you like.
Yeah.
Um, and the words echoed around that building for hours. It seemed like hours to me. He said, if you are in a good relationship with God, come and take of the table, the communion table.
That's
And I
cool.
sat there for ages, and he just looked at me and went,
Yeah.
and beckoned me down. I mean, he knew I'd moved in with Michael, and he knew we were together, and he gave me communion. And
I'm
that
getting
touched
chills.
me. That touched me deep down, because he said, what I think's irrelevant. It's
Mm.
between you and him.
Yeah, I
It's
I love
between you and
that.
him.
I love
And it
that. I'm getting
and it's
goosebumps everywhere.
yeah, me too. And it's just something that it speaks to that relationship that you were just talking about, Matthew. That deep. Yeah, and he also has a gay son now, which we didn't know at the time. Um, but it is about, you see, we're going back to orthodoxy and things, Nick, which we haven't talked about tonight so far. Um,
Actually, I was about to, so carry on.
it's it shows that it's not the religion that's at fault, it's the people in the religion, because Alan the vicar just said, hey, not to do with me. If you and him get on well, pal, there you go. job's a good one.
Exactly.
That's
And
beautiful.
that's the thing, isn't it? It's not for us to judge somebody else's relationship with God.
Mm.
And it's for us to accept that they have a relationship with God, and let's help nurture that and feed
Yeah.
it and help it to grow. You know,
I always
that's what we do.
people ask me sometime what a minister looks like what's the job description of a minister, and I think it really is just supporting people in the healthy formation of beliefs. So, like, whatever, at least for me, because I was ordained spiritualist, but I serve interfaith, and so my idea is just whatever your beliefs are, let's make them as healthy and as strong and as solid as we possibly can. Whether I believe the same thing or not, it doesn't really matter. My job as a minister is to help somebody to form the healthiest belief system that they possibly can, in a way that really, really serves them in their pursuit of serving the world around them. And I think it's special work that we get to do. It's very intimate work.
Very. And I have to say, I'm very eclectic in my faith too. And it's funny, you should mention the orthodoxy, because I was then thinking about what you guys were saying about salvation and repentance, and I was reminded that for all my differences of opinion with a certain other rather large Orthodox church, they, like us, believe that salvation doesn't come through repentance alone. It must come with good works, or as we say, personal responsibility. And if you look at all of the different parts and aspects and all of the different reflections of God and all the different names and all the different labels and all the different ways of giving praise, there's always this tiny little spark of something that's brilliant. And, I still carry with me my days as a member of the Wiccan Creed, and it harm none, do as you will. And which is certainly a much more politer way of saying just be bloody nice. But I will still keep saying it because it's down to earth and something that can be acceptable for all. And I think that's what we need to be, acceptable for all. We're not all gonna agree on absolutely every aspect of everything, because we're just not. We're human beings, for crying out loud. We, as much as we want to believe that we don't, we all kind of at some point revel in that individual throw that we have on life. But if we all accept that each individual part is part of a bigger picture and just be respectful of that, there's so much that can be done. It always worries me and concerns me that I sound like I'm flogging a dead horse and repeating myself, because the more we go on about the same thing all the time and don't move on from something, the risk we have is putting people off of that message. But there's one thing that I will never give up flogging, and that's the truth of spirit. Just be nice.
Yeah. And, go on, Irene. Sorry.
I was just going to say, from when I was a girl and growing up, my grandparents and my parents were deeply religious. I was brought up Methodist, and it was 3 times on Sunday and in the evening going to Bible classes, etc., so forth. It's a different world now, and a lot of people are saying about churches closing. We've just had the thing in our own village that one of our churches is going to close because there's nobody goes. I just think that doing Christian spiritualism it's deep, but it's not as formal as what it once was. This religion of ours is more open. People can talk to us more. Other than at one time, the reverend, the padre, whoever used to come to your house if you couldn't get. And sorry, Jean, but a lot of Catholic ministers had their whole, fire and brimstone. But with us, in doing what we do, we can talk about it on a level where everybody understands it. And the new Bible that Lynn's borrowed to Jean, or that Jean's bought, you can make sense of that. But our own big Bibles, so I've got my grandmother's family Bible, who taught me mediumship from a young age. And it's huge. It's absolutely huge. But there's a lot of history in there because we've got all the family names and birth certificates and death certificates. But I just think that if we could speak to younger people and, you know, in a sort of less formal way, then a lot more younger people might come in and not take it as deep and meaningful. And you will, if you don't do this, you will go this way, or you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, don't you?
Yeah.
It's an easier religion for everybody to get on with.
Yeah.
You know,
So
you just said this, Irene. You just said about this getting to younger end.
yeah,
I know some schools what are allowing spiritual people in, mediums like ourselves, actually
yeah,
going into school now and actually taking a service instead of having just the normal father
yeah,
from, you know, from this
yeah.
church or that.
That's
Some are
good.
letting mediums into school to learn them about afterlife.
Oh,
I
that's
Amazing.
know a
good.
few that are doing it.
You guys are
That's really
massive.
good.
I've been
But
there
I
like a
also
dog.
Around here.
I also think that we have to move. You know what we're saying about keeping going, and I think Pat touched on it earlier, where we've got to learn. You're constantly learning with spirits. As you evolve, they evolve, and as you go down, they give you a different. They'll throw a curveball at you and say, You're going to do this next." I mean, this time last year, Jean never ever thought about being a reverend, did you?
No,
It wasn't even on the radar. But you know, it's the thing that now that we are doing, because in one sense it's getting us closer to spiritualism. In another sense, is giving us a different perspective with the Christian side of it as well, and it all gels together and comes together as it should do.
It
As
does.
it should
And
do.
I just want to share a quick story. We've been to Bridlington Church, and that was brilliant. I don't know. No, we've been online. We've been online, and I was taking Jean back to their caravan, so I just jumped in the car and took her back to Hornsey,
oh yeah, you took dogs.
and I brought the dogs, and I took them onto the prom and walked them along the prom, and it was getting near pub turning out time, and people were a little bit merry, and one guy came over and he sat down on the wall. He went, "Oh mate, you Reverend?" "I am." And we had this wonderful chat, and he was telling me all about. I know I've got a bit of a problem, and this, that, and I don't know what to do, and I know I should get sober, but I don't know how, and and we just sat for about half an hour and talked about. Well, I didn't talk; I just let him speak, and
But words heal. He was talking to you and he healed himself by telling you his story. He
yeah,
took the
yeah.
first
I
step.
mean, but it's amazing
How
just
the
what a different. It
difference.
wouldn't if I just walked with my hoodie on and
They wouldn't
took
have
this.
said anything.
It wouldn't have passed me back. I would have walked past him, but it gives you a different way to speak to people, or for
Yeah,
people to approach you, they feel more confident in just saying, "Oh, can I just have 5 minutes of your time?"
yeah.
And I think I made a promise to myself. Actually, I go out more with my shirt on, but I haven't really. I must do it more because
He'd
it.
better go out with his shirt on than
Well,
nothing.
yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Jean
Shameless.
has always been a beacon of. It's kind of like the taxi light at the top that says "open for service." It's never been a symbol of authority. It's this symbol that says "I'm here." And
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
your story. I'll share a very brief one. Literally 10 years ago, in about 3 or 4 months, I was getting ready for my ordination, and I thought, you know what, I've got to go out and walk outside in it and feel comfortable in wearing this, because I don't, as you can tell, when I'm in my slum in it, I don't like anything around my neck. So I was very unused to wearing a collar, and so I did an experiment, and I walked a particular route around the village on a day, at a certain time, where I knew everyone would be roundabout regular or clockwork. And I was wearing a hoodie and jeans, and they were baggy, and I wore trainers. And I walked around the village, and everyone I come to, I said good morning. Most people were ignoring me. Even more were not acknowledging me, and quite a few of them were crossing the road to avoid me. I then waited 7 days and it did exactly the same walk, wearing the collar. Everyone spoke to me.
Do you know what it reminds me of a little bit? In the Bible, Luke 17:19, go forth for your faith has made you well. I don't know why, but I think sometimes as ministers, people like in Tony's example, they're we're standing there, but really they're connecting with themselves and God, or their understanding of divinity. And that is where the healing's taking place, and we're just kind of facilitating the or holding space maybe, or we're grounding or anchoring the moment. I just think that's one of the a beautiful example that both of you just gave. Actually, it reminds me of that Luke 17. I think it's 17:19.
I'm pretty sure it is too.
Yeah. Anne Marie's just asked a question. She says, "Is Matthew ordained?" Question mark.
Yes, I was ordained in 2014 here in Canada.
Can I say another story? I went to go down to the doctor's for a COVID jab. And after that, of course, you have to sit about 15 minutes in a room. And I had the jab. I went in, and there was about 6 people there. And I don't know how they were. Oh, we're talking. I said, well, I don't go anywhere, doctors and church, and that's all I do. So, church, what church? And we had quite a good little talk between us there. And they would say, oh, somebody would say, well, that's funny, this happened to me. And now we started going, and the next, and we had quite a discussion. But next time I went down, the doctor said to me, I heard you had quite a good time together when you were leading things down there. So just mention sometimes that one word, and I didn't do it purposely, but it's all I do. And the thing is, you were there waiting. It's as though the words are guided, you're guided that way. So they brought to you.
Yeah.
Just to open the door.
Very, I think you're so right about that, Pat. It's beautiful.
And the thing is as well, we've got commandments, we've got principles, we've got all these things that's been lots of them man-made, and there's a lot of man-made rules within the churches. Every church or synagogue or what have you. Why don't we just help one another, serve one another, love one another? You don't have to be in a church. You're doing it from your own home, looking after families, helping people. There'd be no war, would there? And everybody try to be nice to one another. Make it Christmas Day every day.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford the presents every day, but I love the community spirit that you get. And it's interesting. A lot of what's been discussed tonight is reminding me of a lot of my spirituality and my understanding of the world of spirit, of course, is influenced by my life before I became a spiritualist. And everyone knows, whoever listens to me, that I grew up in the Divine Church of Babylon 5. And for people to think that I could sit there and quote a science fiction show that could be so poignant and so spiritual, but it really did carry me from who I was to who I am. Yeah. And if I may just be indulged a second, I actually, because of the word Pat used, reminded me, and I googled it and found it. I'd like to share with you my principle that I take, that is actually the declaration of principles from that show. And it's very short, so don't panic, but this is written by a character called Jakar. He was once a really angry soldier, and he became a very kind and loving priest and a wonderful writer. And he wrote for this new alliance the Declaration of Principles, that was a book, huge book. It began with this Declaration of Principles, but behind it was the first page of every religion of every race that joined the alliance to symbolize that unity. And this is what it says: the universe speaks in many languages, but only one voice. It speaks in the language of hope. It speaks in the language of trust. It speaks in the language of strength and the language of compassion. It is the language of the heart and the language of the soul, but always it is the same voice. It is the voice of our ancestors speaking through us, and the voice of our inheritors waiting to be born. It is the small, still voice that says, we are one. No matter the blood, no matter the skin, no matter the world, we are one. No matter the pain, no matter the darkness, no matter the loss, no matter the fear, we are one. Here, gathered together in common cause, we agree to recognize this singular truth and this singular that we must be kind to one another, because each voice enriches us and ennobles us, and each voice lost diminishes us. We are the voice of the universe, the soul of creation, the fire that will light the way to a better future, because we are one.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely.
And it was because of that I found spiritualism. All credit to Joseph Michael Straczynski, as Reverend Alan would say.
And you know that I do, you know, with me and my music, Jean and Tony know I'm a music fan. There is a song by a gentleman called Tim McGraw. It's a country song, and it's called Humble and Kind. Find it on the internet and listen to it, and watch the video. It is absolutely stunning. The way that he just stands there, all in black with his Stetson on, and he just stands there, and all these beautiful pictures come up, and it's just called Humble and Kind by Tim McGraw. Oh, it's beautiful. It's one of my favourites. I'm a Tim McGraw fan, but that's one of my favourites by him.
And that just brings us full circle, I think, Nick, because each voice ennobles us and each voice taken away diminishes us. Goes back to what you were saying right at the beginning about that jigsaw and all the pieces fitting together. But if even just one little piece doesn't feel like it fits or it's wanted, or then we failed. And that
we do have a lot of people on here, Tony, that came on here to listen to us because they was down, because they had problems, because they'd lost loved ones. And every time we're on doing the service, thank you so much. You've helped us so much. And I believe that we've done our job. As well as giving the messages, like Jean says, it's not work. It's a privilege and a pleasure. And it always humbles me every time I come off the platform. And I know I've good, and I feel so humble. And I always respectfully say, thank you, Lord, for helping me.
But how many people are on here tonight, and how many messages have we given?
None. They're just listening.
Actually, I would only disagree with that slightly, Irene. I think we've given one big message.
Yes. We have actually given messages out in different ways.
Yeah.
So we have given messages in different ways.
But I meant sort of like
I know what you meant.
Yeah. This is why we do our experiment every Thursday, and I know I bang on about it, but it's wonderful, you know. I was always taught to the address will follow the reading, but I thought, you know, Spirit knows, so why not just flip it and prove that philosophy is a message from Spirit?
Yeah.
And you know, I think my esteemed colleagues that I've shared this screen with tonight always prove that no matter what medium or form or ability within the mediumistic spectrum is used, so long as it is used in love, so long as it is used in kindness, so long as it is used in compassion, and to aid the brokenhearted, to help the brokenhearted, to aid the suffering one through life's various changes, can say, "Thy will be done." I had to get a song in. I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's a bit like Irene always has to get a song in, don't you, love?
Absolutely.
Because
The
they
world wouldn't be
work.
the world without a song.
Yeah,
But I mean, we've got Amin on. He's just come on and said,
I've
because
just seen that.
thank you to all of you. You've helped me so much when I needed support. And Suzanne says, how many weeks do we tune in and all we do is chat? Messages are a bonus. And I think that's wonderful. Thank you,
But
Suzanne.
Suzanne, it is, and
Yeah,
this spiritualism in principle, I think, is going to become a recurring thing.
absolutely.
And as soon as we finish this one, I'll be getting straight back in touch with Nick and Matthew and everybody and saying, when's the next one? Then let's get it penciled in, because if we don't, we won't do it.
Yeah.
When my
You're quite
husband
right.
believe what he listens in.
Yeah.
There's a funny little song that goes completely against what's being said. It just come into my head
Go on.
about some people. I forgot the name of the singer, but it's It's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh, that one.
I look in it looks in the mirror each day, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's such a funny song.
Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in
Perfect
every
in
way.
every way.
That's it.
Yeah. I know that one.
It does
I know
remind
that
me of a rather naughty tweaking of a very important prayer, actually. Lord, give me the courage to accept that which I cannot. No, give me the courage to accept which.
Which I cannot change.
I've got it
Yeah.
at home.
Give me the courage to accept which I cannot change, the ability to change that which I cannot accept, and the strength to put my arm out into the teeth of the people that disagree with me.
Yeah, that's the one. Oh, thank you, Irene. That's lovely.
Oh, bless you
That's
too. I mean,
lovely.
it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Bless you too, darling. Hope to see you soon, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Oh, and Stacey says every Friday.
I don't think every Friday,
No.
but
No, maybe once a
Once a
month.
month.
yeah,
Maybe once a month.
yeah.
Once a month would be awesome.
Yeah.
Once a month
I
would be
think every
absolutely
Friday
great.
been too much.
But I do think we've just about come full circle again, because they've brought us right back round to where
Yeah.
we started, which is amazing.
Well, can I say I've really enjoyed it, especially with Nick and Matthew on and our lovely Pat with us as well.
Thank
It's
you,
been a
Irene.
really good night, and we've had some lovely words said, some lovely comments. Tom's on and Tom King is on, and it's just been wonderful.
Thank you for having me back.
Oh, you're welcome anytime, Matthew. You know that. Be
I
still
was
my
quiet
beating
for
heart.
the first time.
So usually I only ever get invited back to apologise for the last time. So it was quite.
Thank you.
Yes,
Matthew.
I agree, Suzanne. Matthew and Nick should join in more regularly. But if we do once a month, then I dare say you'll see them both.
Yeah, I think that would work perfectly.
Yes, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
And me and Irene, definitely something.
Definitely, I'm still
So-
waiting to
Definitely,
get my
Irene,
date.
still waiting.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, right, okay.
Date
Still
with-
waiting to get my date with you and Tony.
That would be interesting.
That would be very interesting. Jin can come along as well.
Yeah.
We'll set it up. I'll
Because I
speak to
have
Tony
to.
and Jean tomorrow, darling, and we'll get a date sorted out for you, sweetheart. Okay.
I don't know what date we're
don't.
going on, but there we are.
Hang
No,
But
I don't yet, but I will do.
anyway, thank you for sharing this hour and 41 minutes with us. Thank you, Matthew.
Have you seen
Thank
what
you.
your Michael's put? Matthew's overdressed for the occasion. Oh,
dear.
dearie me.
I'll sort it out when I get home. But yes, thank you. It's been
Lovely.
wonderful. It's been
Absolutely
enlightening,
brilliant.
and I've learned stuff again.
So have I.
Same.
Yeah.
But
Every
thank you.
It's
Thank you
nice
so
to hear
much.
other opinions and see where we all go, because we're all basically on the same page. It's just that we say it in different ways.
And we come at it from a slightly different angle.
And it's
Yeah,
a sounding
absolutely.
board, isn't it?
It is.
It's a
Yeah.
sounding board, and we
And
Yeah.
to everybody who's listened, if you only take one tiny little thing away, we've done our job tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Good night,
and,
Nicola. God bless, darling.
Night, Nicola. It's been
Good
wonderful.
night.
Nick, would you like to close the prayer in prayer, please?
You just want me to say my usual, don't you?
I do. I love hearing it.
Okay. Friends, let's join together in closing prayer, and everyone at home, join in too if you wish, but you don't feel forced to. And you don't have to close your eyes or lower your head. Just send your thoughts out and say something like this. Great Spirit, Father, Mother, God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together as friends, to unite under your banner of love, of hope, and of friendship, to carry on the work of Spirit, to provide the proof and the truth that we are all one, united under your parental love. No matter how that is defined, we feel it, and that is what matters. As we go out into the world, I ask for a blessing to be placed on each person here present, watching now and in the future, and all their friends and family that they represent. And as we go forward again and ever, we always ask this question, Great Spirit. We ask you not to move the mountain, but in strife, just give us the strength to climb. Until we meet again in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night and God bless.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
God
night.
bless.